All right, welcome to Ducks and Pucks. This is your host, Mike, along with my co-host, Eddie Jones. We're going to be going over all the Ducks games as usual from the past week and looking at some game previews. And we've also got a special guest with us here, Jake from the St. Louis Blues podcast he does. And we're going to talk to him about our last matchup with the Ducks. And Jake, first off, welcome on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you guys came off that really good win before you played us, 6-1, the previous night, and then you came in our game, and we thought it was going to be a closer matchup. And just kind of getting your perspective, what did you think? The Ducks prevailed 3-0, but what went wrong, if anything, for the Blues in that game?
I mean, up until last night, their game hasn't been found yet, and the Anaheim Ducks they looked a full step ahead. I mean, with Perry and Getzlaf, no one's containing them right now throughout the NHL, and our defense definitely had a hard time covering them. We did have the flu bug going around. I'm not one to make excuses for the team or anything like that, but
Right.
we had a couple of our guys out against you. We were also on a back-to-back where we had to travel, so that definitely took a toll.
True.
But from the very beginning, actually, I chose the Ducks for the Stanley Cup champions this year, actually. So you guys have one heck of a team. You guys are deep, real deep. So
Thanks. No, yeah. I mean, we appreciate that. A lot of people are been saying that, but Eddie and I have talked about. We've told our fans too. Last season, we were only a point or two away out of the President's Trophy, and then we get eliminated in the second round. So, I mean, we're looking good, but we got to finish the season too. Our concern.
absolutely.
For you guys going forward, in this last game, we beat you guys 3-0 in that game, and then it looked like though for you guys, you haven't had Stashny for a little while, which has kind of killed you guys because he's been really good in the faceoff circle for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were also missing Yori Laterra for that game as well. So when you're missing Stastny and you're missing Laterra, and then that you have to rely on Backus, Berglund, Ott, and Lapierre with faceoffs, which those are all obviously really good faceoff men. But the whole reason to go out and get Stastny and to go out and get Laterra like we did this summer was to have the face-off wins, because face-off possession is key, especially when you're facing Anaheim, because that's an extra, 5, 10, 15 seconds. They're going to have puck possession that, we don't. So if you lose 60% of the draws, you're looking at about 2 or 3 minutes time that we don't have the puck. You guys do. You know what I'm saying? So that definitely didn't work out in our advantage for that game.
Yeah, the face-offs is something that Eddie and I have harped on, on this podcast we've been talking about for a while too, because that was our downfall against the Kings in that series when we lost in 7 games was the face-offs. So they had won almost 50 more face-offs in that series. So I think, like you said, the key for the Ducks, and I think the key even for you guys and a lot of teams in the West is the face-offs. And I mean, that's why we went out and got Kessler. That's why you guys got Stashny. And I think that's going to be for the Ducks in our division and you guys in your division, that's going to be huge as far as how both teams, end up towards the end of the season rankings.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That was we had to everybody was trying to build this summer to mimic the Kings. I mean they really are. I mean, I'm sure you guys hear it all the time, but they really have the perfect structure. And they're big. They can score. They're huge down the middle, and that's what a lot of teams, us and Anaheim included, tried to do this summer.
Yeah, and they've also got obviously a world-class goalie and Jonathan Quick in that too. And in our season preview, I kind of harped on the Blues a bit. I think when they didn't re-sign Miller, I looked at the pairing of Elliott and Allen, and I kind of thought they would slide off a bit. But Elliott hasn't been too bad this season. Do you think Elliott and Allen are able to carry the Blues in through 82 games?
That was one of my concerns that I touched on episode 2 actually of my podcast. I do like it. Jake Allen has been nothing but good in the AHL. He's definitely paid his dues down there, and even when you listen to hockey talk up in Toronto and up in Montreal, which I do on an everyday basis, a lot of the experts up there were even saying the Blues have the best uh, semi-pro goalie next to John Gibson, which you guys have. So I am, however, concerned about it. I don't want to get anybody hurt. I don't want Elliott to get ran, and then all of a sudden we have Jake Allen, who's played 16 NHL games, and then a backup that nobody knows by the name of Jordan Bennington. You definitely don't want that to happen. So I look for the Blues to make a move to get a goalie. I don't know when, um, but there's a pretty solid goalie out there named Peter Budaj, and
Mm.
I'm sure you guys know who he is. He's in the AHL this year, and no one picked him up this summer. And veteran. I would love to have him, but look for the Blues to make a move to definitely get a goalie. I think somewhere down the road, because I think that's going to be a little bit bumpy for us this year. They're gonna have to bail us out, and I'm not sure if they're capable.
So do you think, in your opinion, would you have rather signed Ryan Miller, or do you think it was a good decision to not sign him, even though he struggled near the end of the season?
I liked Ryan. I actually called that trade at the very beginning of the year last year because there was just so much talk about him coming. I liked him coming over here. I was excited for him to come, but there was no way that we were even going to think about re-signing him. Um, First of all, the asking price. He's established. He wanted term. He wanted money. And if we would have signed him, then that would have meant Stastny wasn't going to come here. Because we wouldn't have had the cap room. So, uh, no, I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad he's gone. And trust me, I mean, the front office would have taken so much heat from the fans around here if we would have signed him. Just he was so subpar in the playoffs for us. But no, I'm glad we've moved on from that.
Yeah, and we've seen, the emergence, I guess, of Jaden Schwartz this year on the top line with Backus. But we've also seen Oshie, struggle, and he's only has one assist in 7 games. Is it kind of bittersweet to have Schwartz do so well and then Oshie struggling 7 games in?
Well, that's just that's what it's all about, is just trying to find the game. Oshie, I read an article the other day from Jeremy Rutherford, who's the beat writer for the St. Louis Blues. He actually said that Oshie felt the pressure more than he ever has to struggle this year, and it's so much more than that. If you watch the games, he's fighting the puck through the neutral zone a little bit. He's not playing real north south, which is Ken Hitchcock's way of play. Um, I don't know. It is bittersweet to answer your question because Schwartz. I mean, if you remember right, he missed a week or two of training camp because we hadn't signed him yet. So we were all definitely on the edge of our seats because we didn't think he was going to come back. But definitely bittersweet. Once Oshie does get rolling, I think it'll just be sweet. But right now it's definitely nice, especially with Schwartz. He had a heck of a game last night with against the Chicago Blackhawks. So.
Yeah, and in the game against the Ducks, you guys had Petteri Lindbaum who made his debut. Did he impress you, or was he kind of just a subpar debut against the Ducks?
Oh, definitely a subpar debut, but I mean, I think any rookie is going to have a subpar debut when they have to play out of town in Anaheim. I mean, that's just how good those are so far. He's definitely a good talent. He impressed a lot of people in camp. Look for him to be up this year. If my trade prediction is correct, I think Leopold's going to be the odd man out. And then we also have Carl Gunnarsson that's still working on his hip. That's going to eventually be in the top 6 defensemen as well. But yeah, back to Petteri Lindbaum. Great story. He wasn't even supposed to make. He was supposed to come in, do the camp, and then kind of see you later because we went out and got Nate Prosser, Chris Butler over the summer. Those guys were supposed to stick around and be like our top 8D, and he wasn't even talked about in the very beginning. And then all of a sudden, yeah, here he is making his NHL debut against the Ducks, and definitely a lot of upside. We're gonna see him a lot this year, I believe.
Is there anybody else in the organization you think will make a step up next year or within a couple of years? Maybe a guy like Ty Ratty or anybody else?
It's I think Ty Ratty's been just a little bit of a disappointment. There was so much hype about him, and yet we haven't seen him, and it's not really fair. A lot of prospects, it's not really fair to be in the St. Louis Blues organization, as you guys obviously know as well because of the Ducks being so deep. But it's hard for prospects with a lot of talent upside to crack that lineup. I mean, it's so deep. Ty Ratty, I don't look for as much. I know Robbie Fabry was our first overall pick for the St. Louis Blues this year. He's only 18 years old, but I mean he almost made the team. I mean that's how close it was, and not many 18-year-olds make the team out of camp. It's pretty outstanding. But the number one prospect that I look to see to have the most time up this year is Dmitry Yashkin. Big guy, throws his body around, and actually had a goal last night against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, and with a pretty decent start so far to the season. It's not a bad start. At 3-3-1. How do you think they'll finish by the end of the season? I'm sure they'll make the playoffs, but where do you think they'll place in a tough Western Conference?
I look for us to be in the top three in the Central, but that being said, I mean look at Nashville's start. Who would have thought they'd be leading the Central Division right now at 5-1-2, and Dallas with the Dallas Stars with Nichushkin, Ben and Sagan, and then they go out and get Spezza and Alois Hemsky. So I hope we did enough to finish in the top three. I think we will. However, it would not surprise me if we were a solid 7 in one of the wild card spots, 7 or 8. But I'm definitely pulling for that top 3.
Yeah, Jake, even if you guys do end up in the 7th spot, and like you said, you talked about maybe getting another goalie or whatnot down the stretch, and maybe things happen, and hopefully Oshie picks it up for you guys, Stashny gets healthy. I think even if you came in at 6, 7, or 8, you could definitely make a push. I mean, look at what the Rangers did last year, coming in at the bottom of that bracket and going all the way. How far do you think, if you guys got in, that the Blues could go?
Well, that's obviously the ultimate question that everybody in St. Louis is wondering. But yeah, back to what you were saying about the playoffs. It doesn't matter your seed anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, it got way tougher with them changing it up to divisional playoffs as it is. I mean, you guys know too. Basically, yes. In order for you guys to go to the Western Conference Final, you have to beat California.
Exactly.
You have to win California, and for us, well, we're gonna have to beat our bigger brothers, the Chicago Blackhawks, consistently in the playoffs. So that's what's gonna be the biggest key for everybody is let's just see if we can get through there. But at the same time, there's still an 82-game season. You got to make it. So as far as predictions in the playoffs, I wish I could answer that question for you. I have no idea. You know how it is. I mean, every game's different, and I hope our only hope maybe is somebody else plays the Blackhawks first round and beats them, and then we can move on to the second round and not play the Hawks. That's what we're hoping for here in St. Louis.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are saying that in the West about the Kings. They're like, oh, we don't want to play them in the playoffs because we saw what happened last year, and actually in the last 3 years, obviously they won it 2 out of 3 times and went deep in the middle year there. What do you think about the structure of the playoff? Do you like that system or do you like the old system?
I'm slightly torn. I do enjoy it. I mean, because it's the best of the best. You know what I'm saying? And that's you want a true champion. And I like the conference finals being a divisional champion from each division. I do like that a lot. That being said, the San Jose Sharks had an outstanding year last year, and they had to play the LA Kings the first round. I mean, how fair is that?
Right.
I'm back and forth with it. I honestly think, and I don't think they used to do this. I mean, maybe even way back before I was born, but it should be just a solid 1 through 16, and it doesn't matter conference, division, all that doesn't matter. That way, you really do get a true champion. Because if you break it down, if you did it like that, there's probably, I'd say 11 or 12 Western Conference teams that would make it, and maybe only 4 Eastern Conference teams that would make it. That way you would get a true champion. But as far as like travel and stuff, they would never do that. But
right,
the divisional, it's tough. I mean, it's so hard.
Yeah, definitely. That's the key going forward is do well in the 82 game season, but it just gets crazy playoff time because you're going to be playing your rival teams in your division. That's all we have time for. Thanks for coming on the show, Jake. Why don't you tell everybody briefly the name of your show and where they can find it so they can check you guys out as well?
Yeah, thanks again, guys. Loose Chicklets. We're on Twitter and on Facebook. You just search Loose Chicklets, or you can go to our website loosechicklets.com. Check out our episodes there or on iTunes.
All right, thanks for coming on, Jake.
Hey, thanks, guys. Anytime.
All right, we have Jacob back on talking about the Buffalo Sabres again. We had him on last week. Welcome back to the show, Jacob.
What's up, guys? Nice to be back.
Hey, glad to have you back. In this obviously the second and final meeting between the two teams, it looked like Buffalo played a lot stronger game, especially in the first 20, 40 minutes there, Jacob.
Oh, yeah, they played a much better game compared to when we were playing at home. So I think a lot of Sabres fans were much happier with at least the first two periods until it all kind of fell apart like it seems to usually do.
Yeah, and Tyler Ennis got on the board again. I think going into at least this game, you had only 4 guys on the team who had goals, and Tyler Ennis was one of them, and he picked up another goal. Is that still a problem? Even though Hodgson and Delorier scored last night, do you still see scoring and depth, secondary scoring being a problem?
Yep, scoring is still the main problem on this team, and thankfully Ennis seems to be one of the more consistent guys that are scoring on the team. I think we've been shut out like 4 times already, so it's nice to see when someone puts a goal up on the board, and he made it 2-1, so it kind of gave Sabres fans a little bit of hope there until, well,
Corey Perry showed up and
until Corey Perry showed up and decided to just wreck the entire defense.
Despite the ending score 4-1, I think it was a lot closer game than that. Neuwirth was actually pretty good for most of the game. Were you impressed with his performance?
I was a lot more impressed with his performance, considering how bad it was in. Well, it wasn't bad, but considering how poor it was in First Niagara Center when they first played the Ducks. So I was a lot more happy with his play then, and I was happy with his play last night too. So, hey, if he wants to keep playing like that and put some more wins up on the boards for the Sabres, I'm going to be a very happy person, and I'm sure people in Buffalo are going to be pretty happy with that too.
Yeah, and as we were talking briefly before this, the Sabres picked up a win last night against the Sharks, which definitely helps us out, and Sam Reinhart picked up his first point, so that was definitely a good win for you guys, right?
Yeah, a big game for Sam Reinhart. I was real proud of him to see that he put up a point on the board. He was working hard all night. You could tell just from the get-go when his line got out there, they were moving their feet, they were skating hard and pushing the puck really fast. So I was really proud to see that line pull together a goal and to see Sam Reinhart get his first NHL point, and that'll give him a little bit more confidence going into the next couple games.
And looking at the next couple games, it's definitely going to be a tough lineup. It's an Eastern sort of road/home stand kind of thing going on. You got Toronto, Boston, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Montreal coming up. Do you see any hope in those 5 games coming up?
I see our biggest hope coming in Toronto game because the Maple Leafs do have struggles. And who's to say they're not going to struggle against us? They may be off to a decent start this year, but I still think that they may crumble under the pressure. And if the Sabres push as hard as they did on the Sharks on the Maple Leafs, they'll be able to pull out a win just as they did last night. So, because the Maple Leafs are not as big of a team, they're not as strong of a team. So, if the Sabres can do the same strategy almost, then it'll come out with a much better result than people are assuming it's going to be.
Yeah, and last night Cody Hodgson picked up his first goal this season. How big of a relief do you think that is for him? And hopefully he gets off the mark here.
Well, that is a giant piano off of Cody Hodgson's back for sure. So, yeah, it's nice to see him score, and you could see throughout the past couple games he's not thinking pass first. Through the first 3 games, every single time he's thinking pass, pass, pass. He's been shooting the puck from every single angle. I think he was averaging like 6 to 7 shots on goal in the past couple games. So it's nice to see him put one in the back of the net, and hopefully he can put up maybe 20, 30 by the end of the year. That'll make a lot of people happy, and that'll be really good for him too. Prove he can be the second line center of this team.
And the power rankings come out as much as especially for Ducks fans, we seem to hate the power rankings usually because Chicago somehow makes it above us every year. And Buffalo's in 29th and above the Hurricanes, who are obviously struggling without a win. And looking to move up in these next few games against Toronto. Who do you think is the key for these next few games? A key guy or is it Enroth? Is it Neuwirth? Or is it one of the forwards in the lineup?
The key to getting a couple more wins is going to be the forwards. It's going to be the first and second line coming through with goals because Neuwirth and Enroth, they can play as well as they can every single game. But even if they stop every single shot except for one and the Sabres offense can't come through, there's no wins coming through that. The only way to win games is to score goals. It's going to be stuck on the offense. It's going to be on the shoulders of Tyler Ennis, Cody Hodgson, Matt Molson, who is still without a goal. I know I noted that last time. So we're all waiting for Matt Molson to put one in the back of the net. We're also waiting for Chris Stewart, who's been all over the place in the past couple games, especially he was all over the Ducks. He had a couple good scoring chances, and we were all hoping for him to come through with one. So there's a couple guys on the first two lines that need to score some goals, and that's what's going to push the Sabres through for a couple more wins.
I know we talked to Connor McDavid last time, and they recently had a game at First Niagara Center against Niagara. Did you get a chance to see any part of that game?
I didn't get a chance to see it. I watched some of the highlights of it afterwards, and wow, this kid really is as good as people say. There's no doubt in my mind. I've watched him play some games before, but 4 points, a goal, and 3 assists. The kid knows how to play. He knows everything about this game. He has the speed, he has the hands, he has the vision, he has everything that a superstar player needs to play in the NHL. And there's just about no doubt in mine or anybody else's mind you would be insane to disagree with any of the experts who are saying the kid's going to go first overall. So anybody who gets him, they're going to be getting a stud. And part of me hopes that the Sabres will get that, but then there's a part of me that hopes that maybe we can do a little bit better than last year. So it's kind of a toss-up, but it would be great to have McDavid on the team. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, and he's wearing the yellow blue there, so for Erie, so he's kind of a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Oh yeah, that would be a nice little foreshadowing there. Believe it or not, there are people who go to Sabres games that already have the Sabres jersey with McDavid 97 on the back, and I think it's hilarious that people are already assuming that Connor McDavid is going to be here. So it's going to be kind of a cool season to see what happens, and if the Sabres manage to get him through poor play or through sheer dumb luck, we don't know. We lost a draft lottery last year. Who knows? If we come in second last and we win it this year, cool. That's karma just coming right back and fixing the whole situation, and we get the stud Connor McDavid, and we're going to be one of the better teams in the NHL in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Hey, Jacob, remember last week, too, we were talking about the line combinations. It looked like Buffalo went with some different lines against San Jose, and it worked out. So I'm thinking that's still going to be the strategy, unless maybe the group that you had in the combinations last night, maybe going forward, maybe for this next couple games, they might try that out.
Yeah, I think Nolan's going to try the same basic combinations that he did last night against Toronto. So it'll be good to see if they can continue the chemistry that they had, because they were all working hard, they were all pushing the puck nice and fast, and it was a really good, solid game. There wasn't any part of that game that I was disappointed with, minus the goal against, but that was through a screen, and you can't really blame many people for that. It was just a really good shot. But other than that, I think if they do the same thing with that, and if the lines start to not work in the next couple games, switch it up again. Otherwise, I say continue with these because they seem to have pretty good chemistry.
Yeah, it seemed to work. And then, Neuwirth in the last couple games seemed to be playing better. Do you think it might be a 50-50 split, or you still see maybe, 60-30 between Enroth and Neuwirth in the starts?
I think it's going to lean a little bit more towards 50-50 just because of how well both goalies can play, and considering how well Neuwirth played over the West Coast road trip that the Sabres had this week. I think he'll get a lot more starts. I think it'll be closer to 50-50. It might be 55-45 for Enroth in his favor, but I think it'll be pretty even as far as the season goes until one of them proves that, yeah, I'm the number one, stick with me, I'm going to play 60 games this year.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I think it will be like that. You can go back and forth with both, and I just wish you guys the best. I'm not going to be playing you guys anymore. I mean, a season series is already over. It's only 2 games because of the West Coast East Coast the way the format has been just the last couple of years. But I'm glad you came on the show twice this time. We may have you later on in the season if you want to join us for any other hockey talk, and just wish you guys best of luck in the Eastern Conference here on out.
Well, thank you very much. We genuinely accept your good luck, and we're gonna hope to roll with it. And if you guys want me on the show, then I'd be more than happy to come on and talk. So, because I am a fan of hockey in general, my other favorite team is the San Jose Sharks. So, if you want to talk that, I know a little West Coast talk, so that'll be some fun there.
Oh yeah, we can have you on for that too as well.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good, guys.
All right, moving along. The Ducks ended up playing up against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Friday night, and we ended up pulling out a win in that one, Eddie, 4-1. It looked like the Ducks did well in the power play, the face-off circle, and another complete game, Eddie, on the homestand.
Yeah, and Sammy Vatanen continued to quarterback the power play. Corey Perry continued to be on his hot streak. Getzlaff continued to play well. And it was just an all-around team effort. We haven't we've kind of moved away from those bad second periods where we got drastically outshot, and we're starting to limit teams to only about 15, 20 shots per game, and we outshot Columbus. We doubled them in shots on goal. So. And Columbus is not they're not a slouch of a team. They have some pretty good players. Ryan Johansson has 10 points. Nick Foligno, Scott Hart. They've got their team resembles most of the teams in the West. It's kind of there's no big superstars other than Ryan Johansson. It's kind of just a depth-filled team. And we handled them pretty easily, which was definitely a good way to end the road trip. And we're still perfect on our predictions. So. Hopefully we can continue the form just like the Ducks have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Ducks are rolling with 7 wins in a row, and tonight they're going to face the San Jose Sharks, who lost to Buffalo 2-1, which is another surprise. But the Sharks have been on a slide, Eddie. They started out 4-0-1, but now they've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, and that could be at the best time for us too, really. With the Sharks starting so well, and I thought they might start like they did last season. But everything just seems to be going wrong for them at the moment, especially when you lose to a team who's 1-7 and they don't score a lot of goals and they don't get a lot of shots. And we saw that with the 2 games when we played against them. We handled them pretty easily. And the San Jose just looked like they didn't show up. And they really should easily be winning a game like that. But tonight, they're still the Sharks. You still can't say, okay, they've played badly, they've lost 4 in a row, it's going to be easy, because it's no game in the NHL is going to be easy. And we said that about the Buffalo game, and they have to be cautious going into the game against the Sharks. But they look like they know that, and obviously Boudreau is going to be telling them that. So I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to take anybody for granted, but like you said, whenever, especially the Ducks play the Sharks or the Kings, it's going to be a battle. So I think the Ducks should prevail in the game tonight, but I think it's going to be, I still think it's going to be somewhat of a close game. I think the Sharks are going to come out looking for redemption after, a poor performance last night, Eddie.
Yeah, and we're coming off a big win, obviously, what we were just talking about with the Columbus game, and just to quickly touch on how great Sammy Vatanen's been playing lately. It looks like we finally got that quarterback on the power play, and he showed that in that game, and he's shown it so far with he's got 7 points, and all of those 7 points are on the power play. So if he can continue to bring that in this game, and we can, Niemi and Stalock are both great goalies. And we handled Sergei Bobrovsky pretty well. 33. When you put 34 shots on goal, you're gonna challenge any goalie. And even some of the best. And Bobrovsky's a Vezina winner. Niemi's won a Stanley Cup, so there's gonna be 2 similar games. But I think San Jose is a bit more of a threat than Columbus.
Yeah, then moving on, the Ducks are going to be going on the road this week, and we've got actually, 3 pretty good matchups. We're going to be playing the Blackhawks, the Blues, and then Dallas, which the Blues and Dallas will be back-to-back games at the end of this coming week. It's going to be tough in these 3 games, Eddie. I mean, you look at Chicago, you've got Patrick Sharp and Kane already leading the team with 3 goals. Andrew Shaw is up there too with 3 goals, and Blackhawks have been playing well at home. So I mean that if the Ducks are going to lose a game somewhere in this week, and obviously we don't want them to lose any, but this is going to be probably one of the games that's going to be tough going against Corey Crawford in Chicago.
Yeah, and I saw that too with Chicago being 3-0-1 at home. This is going to be a tough game. They haven't really conceded a lot of goals. They haven't scored a lot of goals either. They've only scored 20, but that can change at any moment when you have guys like Sharp and Kane and Taves and Hossa on your team. So that's going to be a tough one. Luckily, we've got Monday off in between that game, so it won't be like it's a back-to-back or anything like that. I'm sure Anderson will probably be in goal for that one unless they feel like giving Gibson a nod. But if you look at the schedule this week, Thursday, Friday, Gibson's going to have to start one of those games against either St. Louis or Dallas. But they're all going to be tough games. All 4 of these games are winnable, but they're also losable. These are some great teams who finished high up last year, and we faced Dallas in the first round, and they've only gotten better. With the Blues, we handle them pretty easily, but how many times, we have a great record against the Blues in the last, 8 games we've played them. But it's still the Blues, and they're still a good team, and they can outfight you any day or night. So. And the Stars even Spets is on a roll. Sagan's leading the league in points right now. He's one above Getzlaf and Perry with 13. You got Jamie Benn, Kari Lehtinen can be stellar on some nights. So, but like you said, I think if we're gonna lose one game, the toughest game I think that we got to focus on is the game against Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way the goalie situation, like you said, I think Anderson probably will roll on Tuesday against Chicago, and then sometimes it depends on what Boudreau does. I thought last week maybe Gibson would play Buffalo and Anderson against Columbus, but we saw the opposite happen. So I would think that Gibson would go against St. Louis and then Anderson against the Stars. But I'm probably going to be wrong. It'll probably be the other way around. Probably Anderson will go against St. Louis and then Gibson against the Stars. Eddie, it's hard to tell what Boudreau's going to do with 2 good goalies, and especially after Gibson getting that rebound win against Columbus.
Yeah, it's hard to read into it because I feel like Anderson will get the start tonight, and then I think he might get the start against Chicago too. I think maybe Gibson gets the start against St. Louis just so since Anderson would have started those 2 games, then Gibson gets in there and kind of makes it a little bit easier on him, and then Anderson comes in after that back-to-back and starts on the Friday against Dallas. I feel like that's probably the best way to go, but Boudreau will make the good decision, and I'm hoping Gibson, when he gets his second start, can have another good start just like he did against Columbus.
Yeah, definitely. And little update too we had on some injury news. Danny Heatley practiced with the 4th line yesterday. We got that from the LA Times reporter. They were talking about it, so we're looking to see how he'll do, and he may come back tonight against San Jose. If not, maybe later in the week, Eddie.
Yeah, I really hope he does come back too. I want to see how he gels with the first line. Don't get me wrong, I've loved what they've done so far, but I really, since we picked him up, wanted to see how Perry and Getzlaf could revive him. But I don't want that chemistry and or him coming in to disrupt the play of Perry and Getzlaf. So it's kind of an interesting situation. We'll have to see how it plays out, but I'm sure Perry will get Heatley will get his shot with the big boys. If not game 1, maybe 2 or 3 of his return.
Yeah, definitely. And we're still, obviously Patrick Moon's still going to be out for a few more weeks, and Palmieri's gotten on the ice, but only limited time. So I haven't gotten an update on when he's going to be back. So the Ducks are still rolling though. I mean, we've got 3 of the quality players out, Eddie, and I'm not going to say I'm surprised, but I love how balanced our team's been doing without those 3 players.
Yeah, and it shows that we have the depth that everybody has been talking about and that we've been talking about at length. That we can put players in the lineup and they can perform well. Obviously, we've had the new guys come in, and Kessler and Stoner have done, I think, amazing since they've come in. I love how Stoner's played on the penalty kill and defensively. He looks at home on the back line, and Kessler's coming in done well, and even Nate Thompson has done well for for having a limited role in the lineup on the third and fourth line. And new boys, William Karlsson and Raquel's looked better lately too. So we've got the guys who can fill the spot, but Palmieri's a great player. And, Heatley's a good player too. So having these guys out of the lineup is also disappointing at the same time.
We've been doing another loose segment with our podcast on the 3 stars and the week. And who do you think this past week, Eddie, are the 3 stars for the Ducks?
It's hard to place them really. I feel like there's 3 first stars and the 3 guys that we have listed down. So I think I'm just going to kind of say the names of the 3 guys we have, and then we can kind of place them from there. So we've got Freddie Anderson. Obviously, he's 6-0-0 on to start the season. Great start for him. He's close to leading most of the categories for goalies. We've got Corey Perry. I think this is a no-brainer. The streak that he's on right now. He had 4 goals this week, and an assist. And then we've got Sammy Vatanen, and he's been on a tear lately too with 3 goals and a couple assists to add to that. All on the power play, and he's one of the reasons. Him and Perry are probably the 2 main reasons why our power play is 6th in the league right now.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, going through all of them, I know we had Anderson the first, week and a half as number 1, and then Perry and then Karlsson for our first edition of this. I think this one, again, it's hard to go back and forth between Perry and Anderson as maybe 1 or 2. I kind of put Perry maybe a little bit up there more just because he's just been on fire, scoring goals at will. I mean, we even talked about it. He even had a chance at an empty netter in that Columbus game, Eddie. I mean, Getzlaf ended up taking the shot, which is no big deal. But, I mean, he's just been around the net all the time. And I think that he's probably this last week is probably number 1. Anderson, real close second. I mean, you can interchange them, really. And then Vatanen definitely stepping up, scoring 3 goals. And, I mean, he's just been lights out with his point shots. Really quarterback in the power play, something that we really needed as well. And you put him on there with Perry, Kessler, and Getzlaf, and I mean it's just ridiculous on the power play, Eddie. We're just doing really, really well.
And I like what Boudreau has done, moving Kessler down to that second unit and giving it more of a spark. Because when we commented on this last week when that first power play unit's out there, most of the time the power play looks great, and then you put that second unit out there and it kind of dies. And then putting Kessler on that second unit and has really, kind of boosted that we've got a whole 2 minutes of a power play instead of, like a minute, and then bringing out that second unit. So it's looked good. And we found out that Vatanen really does have a bomb of a shot on the power play. Some of the goals he scored with those 2 slap shots were just like seeing eye shots into the net. So if he can continue his streak, on the power play, get some points and add in some, 5-on-5 points into that too, he could have a really great season on his hands.
Oh yeah, I think Vatanen's going to be doing really, really well going forward. I mean, especially on the power play. And like you said, I think we had debated about Kessler being on the first or second line. I think you're right. The balance, for more of the 2 minutes. I mean, you could put him on the first line, try and get that goal in the first minute, but then if you don't, like you said, then the next minute it seems like we're not, putting as much pressure. So I definitely don't mind having Kessler on that second line. One other player that I wanted to mention, because I brought it up in one of the game previews, would be Matt Bolesky. Kind of quiet, but, he's got 4 goals, and he's actually the second highest goal scorer besides Perry. So I kind of give him an honorable mention. He's, played on the first line. He's played on the third line. He's kind of been all over in the lineup, but he's been given some solid second scoring. And then, of course, he's a wrecking ball. He's always running around checking people and getting in the dirty areas in the corners, Eddie.
Yeah, I think he's the benefactor though of something I like to call the Dustin Penner effect, where you put anybody on that left wing and they're gonna get goals or get points. Not to say Dustin Penner was a bad player. I loved him when he was in Anaheim, but he's nowhere near a first line winger. And in my opinion, neither is Bolesky,
Right.
Smith, Pelly, Maroon. They're great players, and I love them. They're physical guys, and that's why they're there. They're to free up space for guys like with like Getzlaf and Perry so they can get open. That's another reason why I'm a little bit afraid of Heatley. He's a big guy, but does he hit enough to free up the space? Is he going to ruin the chemistry? But that's why having a guy in the system like Nick Ritchie is very exciting to see how that's going to turn out and how he will fit in eventually with Getzlaf and Perry. If it's not too late by then. He's a guy who can hit, and he's a big guy, just like Perry, just like Getzlaf, but he also can score, and he also can shoot the puck really well. He's also kind of in the mold of Perry. So having a guy like that coming on the left wing of those two guys, who isn't just kind of at the backpack of the line,
Right.
it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, Bolesky's played well, and I'm not trying to be harsh on him or Smith, Pelly, or Maroon. But it's safe to see, or it's easy to see on that line that they're kind of below Perry and Getzlaf.
Yeah, another question talking about the lineups too. One of the fans asked is, okay, if Heatley comes back, then who goes out? And there seemed to be some debate about whether or not it would be Edom or if it would be Jackman. And I kind of, I don't know. I kind of lean towards maybe Jackman going out, but then Edom. If I'm going to look at anybody in this lineup, Eddie, talking about being on lines and how they're performing, I mean, Edom has done nothing. No goals, no assists.
And I know it looks bad, but I think it's a little bit unfair for him because he's been the guy who's kind of shoved down to the fourth line, and I think he's better than that. But it's a problem that we talked about it when Jake was on with when you have so many guys, such depth in the lineup, somebody's kind of going to get the shaft, and that's Edom. And he's been forced down to that fourth line where he's got to play with Jackman, he's got to play with Thompson, and they're not the flashiest guys. And like I said, if you play him on the first line, he's going to get points and he's going to get goals with Perry and Getzlaf as well. He's a limited time on there through injury and of some players in mid-game. But I feel like if anybody should get sent down, I think the better choice is Edom, and I hate to say that. I think the better choice is Edom for now if Heatley's the first guy to come back. I think they both eventually get sent down. I don't think Bolesky, just because of his play, will get sent down. But yeah, Edom and Jackman, when Palmieri and Heatley are back, and even Maroon, then it makes it tough because then I think Bolesky's next. But it's hard to say who's going to be sent down. I think Raquel, if he's still up, Edom and Jackman are the most likely options. It just depends on what you want. If you want scoring, keep Raquel and Edom. If you want, hitting and an occasional fight, include Jackman and keep him up.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be. I mean, it's not a bad problem to have, decide who's going to go down, but it's definitely going to be tough when all three of those guys are coming back and healthy for sure, Eddie. And another topic we kind of wanted to talk about too was the deal with the fighting going on this season. You talk about Jackman and him being out there, and he's had some fights. Stoner had the last fight to end that Columbus game. What do you think about the NHL and how the refs have been handling the fighting this year, Eddie?
Well, recently we've seen, and with no explanation from the NHL or anybody else, the refs this year have kind of been separating fights before they even happen. Guys will drop their gloves and then the refs will step in, and that looks like it's kind of a message from higher up saying, we're kind of trying to phase out fighting here, and we're looking to put other ways to police the game, and it's hard to judge what that means. It's obviously a message come from somewhere that the refs are to stop some of these fights, but there are fights happening, and it's not every fight that's getting separated. But for an example, when Phaneuf and Naginla were about to fight, that was separated, and the night after there was a fight that was separated as well. So it's hard to tell what's going on, but you can tell that they're trying to eliminate fighting slowly from the game.
And what do you think about that? I mean, do you think it's a good thing? Do you think they should let them go at it? Because there's obviously times in a game, even in that Columbus game, with Stoner going at it. There was a hit earlier that some of the Ducks players took exception to, and there was some pushing and shoving earlier in that game, and it was sometimes fighting is seen as to outside people, they look at it as, you just run around and fight all the time in hockey, which obviously you and I and real fans know that that's not the truth. That a lot of times sometimes it's to keep the other team in check. So do you think it's something that they should keep trying to eliminate, or let them dole it out?
Personally, I like fighting in the game. I see a place for it. It's used to police the game. I agree with other people who say that, there's other ways to police the game with a clean hit or a retaliation kind of hit that's not dirty or skill or other ways to police the game. But I like it. I think it has a place. I don't think there's a place for tough guys like John Scott and other guys who have no other aspect to their game but to roam around the ice, big Neanderthal kind of guys and just hit people and that's it. But I think it won't really get eliminated, which is kind of the problem. I like it, like I said, but it won't get eliminated until a catastrophic event. Something happens, a guy takes a punch or and he falls on the ice or he dies or severely injured or some situation like that, which is terrible to say. I don't think it should come to that, but if fighting was to get eliminated, I think that would be the reason why it gets eliminated. And really, a lot of the people who don't want fighting in are saying, why wait till that happens? And in that way, I agree with it. We've never seen anything like that yet, and fighting has been around for a long time. But again, you can't say that and then say they'll come back and say why wait. So that's the problem, and you can see with the refs intervening and before fights start that they're trying to phase it out. But if you look at like some actual statistics in fighting in the league, there's actually not that many fights in the league. There's only about 0.4 fights per game or something, which is not a lot. That's one fight every other game. So like, that's not a ton of fights. 40 some odd fights per season, really, or like per team per season. So it's not a ton of fights. Still a lot, but compared to people saying like they're fighting every game, like you said, people will say that, or that doesn't happen all the time. But in the minors, it's about 3 to 4 more times that, and I think in the minors at least, with these guys are a lot younger, like my age or younger than me, like 16 to 20-year-old guys, literally fighting to get to the NHL. That's if anywhere's to drop fighting, I think it should be in the minor hockey leagues. And I think if they're to, and that kind of limits then the tough guys actually making it to the NHL. Those John Scott and Patrick Coletta and all those kind of players who are just fighters. It kind of limits them coming to the league. If there's no fighting in minor hockey, you make it to the NHL based off of skill. And then that helps sort of phase it out. And then the fighting is just used to police the game, not just because that's the only thing they can do. But other than that, I think it has its place in the game, and eliminating in minor hockey should be the first step. And if that doesn't help, then they could see where they could go from there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. I think if minor league, you see a lot more. I think some people may have seen that one with Gibson, in the goalie fight on YouTube. You can go look it up, John Gibson, I think goalie fight or something like that on YouTube, and he doesn't even start it. It's the goalie from the other team that gives him a shoulder shove, and then it goes from there. And you see a lot more of it, on the Norfolk Admiral team and other minor league teams. So I think if it's definitely, kind of squashed there, it wouldn't be as much as some people think that it is. But I think you're right in the league. I don't see it being out of control or being a problem right now. I think it's fine. Like you said, unless there's some catastrophic, event where God forbid someone gets seriously hurt, which we really haven't seen that too often. So I think we're good on the state of the fighting for now, Eddie.
Yeah, and like I said, like eliminating it from AHL and OHL, WHL, all these Canadian hockey leagues, all the American affiliate teams, and all that's a good step, and I agree with that. But recently we saw in the AHL with I believe it was the game with the Adriatic Flames, AHL, for the Calgary Flames. Colton Gillies, there was a fight, and he kind of jumped a William Carrier prospect for the Buffalo Sabres and just rammed his head into the ice twice. And these are the kind of guys that how they got to the NHL was based off fighting. And that's what we don't want to see is those guys in the NHL. And we've seen Getzlaf fight, we've seen Perry fight, but that's different. They're usually fighting to to because something happened, some a hit on a guy, or to police the game. That kind of fighting I like. But when you have guys who get to the league just because they can fight, well, why are they playing hockey then? That's the kind of situation I'm in.
No, totally. That totally makes sense, and that's the way it should be. And I think that's the way it's going to be for a while. So I think we'll be good. Just a quick note for some of you out there that if you haven't made it to the Honda Center, you should check it out. We put up an article about some of the upgrades that they've made to the Honda Center with player banners in the hallways. They put up some more pictures of Ducks players and paraphernalia, like on the 400 level at the arena, and made some really good upgrades. So if you haven't gone to a game, I suggest you get out to the Honda Center sometime soon and check out all the stuff. Also, subscribe to our email list and also our podcast. We're going to be giving away Ducks related items, some Ducks and Pucks gear. We also have 2 tickets for Fan Appreciation Night that we're going to give away at the end of the season for whoever we do our random drawing. We'll be doing it every month and all the way through the season. So get on those, subscribe, listen. It's free. All you have to do is get on the email list and get on the podcast subscription list, and we'll have some random drawings, and you could win some good prizes.
The Anaheim Ducks are the